Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another one of my Dota 2 hero guides. Today we're going to be taking a look at Lion. So Lion is a support hero. He can be played like a lot of support heroes these days in either 4 or 5 position. Now there are some supports that only play 4 or only play 5, but Lion is one of those that can play either, and a lot of supports are like that. And he's kind of played the same way. Either way, it's just a matter of whether or not he's getting farm. So I haven't made too many support guides yet. This is probably like the second or third. And that's because a lot of support is just a general idea of how to play the game and how to play support overall. It's not really that specific. It's kind of not as unique in some ways, but each support hero has its own unique ways of playing, its own spells and abilities that make it good or bad. And so that's what we're going to go over today with Lion. So how you can think about Lion is that Lion is an extremely good initiation and burst damage pickoff hero. He has one of the best stunning capabilities in the game. Like his kit, his stunning kit, I guess you could say, with his abilities is one of the best in the game. Probably only like akin to Earthshaker or something like that. He doesn't have like the insane stun like Black Hole or something like that with an ultimate, but he does have some of the best low-ish cooldown stuns in the game, and he has 2 of them. He has an instant hex, which is really good, and a decent range stun, which is also really good, that does damage. And so because of that, once you get a blink dagger on this hero, and blink is very, very important on this hero pretty much at all times, you can be very, very good from the 4 or 5 position at blinking in, hexing a target, stunning a target, and then bursting them down with your ultimate, because your ultimate does burst damage. But because your ult does burst damage and you stun, that's kind of all you do. You just jump in, you use all of your abilities kind of on one guy, and hopefully they die, and then it's like a 4v5, or you got that pick off in the side lane because you guys smoked there or whatever. And then other than that, he kind of doesn't do anything. And so that's sort of his weakness, is once he uses all of his abilities, his effect in the team fight is kind of minimal, because his stuns at max level are 12-second cooldown. Now that's kind of low, but in a team fight, you may be only able to use them 2 times, maybe 3 if it's a long fight, maybe 4 if it's like the longest fight in history or something like that. But it's just that he's not going to be able to use his spells all that often, and so that's what his weakness can be, is like other than his initiation, his one single target damage, he's not going to be able to offer a lot in team fights like some other supports who have really, really good, AoE ultimates, good control, like those kinds of things, and so that's his weakness. Another one of his weaknesses is that his laning stage is not like the best. He is decent. He's kind of just middle of the road because he's very squishy. He's not very fast. His right click is not very hard, so he's not good in any of those ways. He's just okay. He's not the worst. He's not like Crystal Maiden in terms of speed, but he's like not, clicking in terms of Rasta, Shadow Shaman. Like his right click's pretty good. He's not any of that, but he does have stuns, which is good. So if you have like a Jug in your lane or like an Ursa or something that has kill threat, his stuns are good because then you can kill. But if you don't have a kill threat carry or something like that, or off lane, then his stuns, they're just going to be harass damage or something like that, And then his main ability really is, and we'll get to all of his abilities in a bit, but his mana drain ability is honestly his best ability in the lane, only because you can kind of sit back and use it on the carry or use it on the off lane and just be really annoying because you're draining all their mana. And if they rely on mana to lane or to kill or to do whatever, last it, whatever it is, then he can just be annoying. So he's more of like an annoying laner, not necessarily like a kill threat, an amazing laner. So that's another weakness, or kind of he's not that strong in that sense either. So that's how you should think about Lion, and now we can take a look at his abilities and what allow him to do that. So now that we understand Lion in general, we can take a look at his abilities and see how he's a really good stunner and does a lot of burst damage, but doesn't do much else. So first, we're just going to take a look at his Q ability, which is Earth Spike, and it's pretty simple. It just sends a Earth Spike, a little stun, out in a direction wherever you place it. Now, one thing to notice about this ability is, yes, it does damage, but it also can be placed on the ground, so you can kind of basically stun in any direction. And also, basically, you don't have to click on a hero, but you can click on a hero. So if like a hero's running away or something and you want to click on them, that is the good way to stun that specific hero, so you don't miss. But if there's like multiple heroes and you don't know if you can get all of them, or you don't want to click on one, because like if I click on one, it'll go this way, because of the direction, and it won't stun that guy. I can basically try to click like right here and stun both of them by clicking on the ground. So that's just one thing to notice about this ability is you can click on them, but sometimes it's better to click on the ground so you can get 2 stuns in. And like I said, it does damage, and that's pretty much all it does. And now we can move on to Hex. And so his ability Hex here, the W ability, is pretty simple. It's just a Hex. You click it on the hero, and it just turns them into a frog, basically, for 4 seconds at max. And it kind of just, earlier on it's less time, but later on it's 4 seconds, so you just click it on the hero, and now they're a frog. And they do get to move around, unlike the stun. So the Hex, they're pretty slow when they move, but they do get to move a little bit, so just keep that in mind. So then, essentially what you want to do is you want to blink in Hex really quick, because it is an instant cast. Wait, you know, and then stun, maybe then you mana drain, and that's his third ability here is mana drain. You click it on somebody, and you basically are just draining their mana passively. The thing about this ability, though, is that you do have to stand still, so you are pretty vulnerable when you drain the enemy's mana, because you are just kind of standing there. And you can actually use this on creeps as well. So range creeps have mana, if you didn't know, so you can actually drain mana from the range creeps. The melee creeps do not have mana. Neutral creeps, some of them have mana as well, so you can drain mana from those neutral creeps. And that's pretty much the whole ability. It also does a small movement slow, or a decent movement slow. So like here we see Axe, and then I'm draining him, and he does move a little bit slower. So it's just a little bit harder for them to get out of the range of the drain. And the drain is kind of a long range, so it does make them kind of run away if they have to, or they'll just run at you and kill you because you just have to, you know, sit still while you're doing it. And then lastly, we have his ultimate, which is Finger of Death. And this ability, it's pretty simple. It's just a burst damage ability. You just kind of click it right onto a enemy, and it just does a ton of damage. As you can see, the last hit, 550 damage there. And pretty much all you do is you click it on the enemy that you want to burst. Now, one thing that this does do is every time you get a kill with it, or like you do a lot of damage, and then the enemy dies like right after. It doesn't have to be the actual last hit. You get a little damage tick. So we can just watch here. We can do that. We can actually kill this guy. And because it took a while, I didn't get the damage tick. But if we actually make another enemy, and I stun, do a couple right clicks, and then I use it, I get this little Finger of Death bonus damage. Now it does 40 extra bonus damage when it's up. But the one thing to consider about Finger of Death as well is that early on, it's a 160-second cooldown. At level 3, it's only 40 seconds. But early on, it's a spell that is very, very long cooldown. So you kind of want to use it at a good time. You want to make sure you're securing a kill with it, getting a kill with it early on. And then each level, it becomes, you know, you can use it a little bit more relaxed or whenever you want, especially level 3. But as a support, he's not going to get it to level 3 until, you know, maybe 30 minutes in the game or something. So it's just one of those things to consider. Early on, it's a very long cooldown. Later on, it's not that bad of a cooldown. You can kind of use it whenever you want because it's only 40 seconds. It's not that big of a deal. So that is pretty much Lion. That's his abilities. I will just briefly go over how to use them all together. So one thing you want to consider is that the stun duration of this is 2.6, and the stun duration of Hex is 4. And these are at max levels, obviously. So ideally, you want to blink in Hex instantly, mana drain for basically the duration, and then stun before the enemy is like unstunned. So like basically you see that little bar over their head. As soon as it gets almost down to the bottom, you just want to use your Earth Spike again. And then basically once, you know, hopefully you have another teammate or something clicking them as well. Once they're almost dead, then you use your finger, and then you secure that kill. And if you're with your carry, I would say maybe don't take the last hit every time, because you obviously want them to get the gold. But if it's one of those things where you're trying to secure the kill and you just want to get the kill, just use finger as soon as you can. So basically, like, we'll spawn another guy here. Basically, just blink in, Hex, mana drain, just because why not? Or if you think you need the damage, you can actually click instead of mana drain if you don't think mana drain's important. Then use your stun, and then finger immediately after. And that's the basic combo for the hero, and that's pretty much all you need to learn to do. And then the one other thing that I did want to mention is, this might get changed, I don't know, is his Agnum's Shard is actually one of the reasons why this hero is pretty good right now. And that's because it allows you to drain up to 3 enemies at one time. So if we get like another, I think the dummy targets work. If we put 3 more here, if we put 3 there, I'm draining mana from all 3. And if you see, I have this little, like, yellow thing. That is basically a BKB. So right now, I am magic immune. I pretty much have a BKB while I'm mana draining. And what that does is it just allows him to mana drain in fights and in the game more than just the laning stage. Because basically, this ability was almost useless outside of the laning stage, other than to just like maintain mana on the map. Because in team fights, you don't want to be just standing there. You know, because you're just going to be so vulnerable, the enemy carry or mid or whatever is just going to kill you instantly. But now, let's say the enemy carry or mid or something is chasing you. If they don't have right-click damage and they're relying on spells, well, you can just sit there and mana drain them, and they can't do anything to you. Because if they're not a right-click hero and they're not right-clicking you at that time, it's like going to be very, very hard for them to kill you. So it's just one of those things that deters them from going on you. It also is good because you can use that in the team fights to drain a lot of mana from the enemy, which a lot of heroes rely on mana to be effective in team fights. So that's honestly one of the things that makes Lion so good right now. So this may get changed, I'm not sure, but just keep that in mind that is what his shard does, and it is pretty important. So that is Lion and his abilities and how you kind of use a combo with him and what his shard does. So now that we see all that, we can jump into a game and see how to play him in a game. So now we're going to jump into a replay here of Seb playing Lion. And basically what I want to talk about first is that Lion, you always go Earth Spike level 1, pretty much because it does damage, it's a stun. But the other reason why, as you see, he's pretty squishy. He takes like 2 right clicks, a nuke, and like 1 little spell, and he's already half HP. Look at this range creep. He uses the Earth Spike to secure the range creep, and that's kind of what you want to be doing early on in the lane, is harassing, maybe using Earth Spike to get a harassing, but you really want to be using it to secure the range creep, because a lot of times what's going to happen here is that the offlaner and the carry are going to use creep aggro and drag their creeps to the range, and the range is going to die. And as Lion, you can kind of posture up to the range creep, because the enemy carry doesn't want to walk next to the range creep when you're going to stun, because then he's going to get stunned and take that damage. So that's how you want to use your stun. Now, usually I would say you go mana drain second, but he actually goes Hex second because he knows he has a DK, and with these 3 stuns combined, they have a ton of kill threat on the enemy. So you see here, he doesn't even have enough for the stun, but because they have that stun combination, they're able to get a lot of damage onto the tree and get that kill in. Now next, what he does actually here is what's really important for support. So if I ever do a support replay, this is the most important thing other than harassing that you want to do, is deboarding the camps, because you want to be able to pull that big camp as a 4 position, and as a 5 position you want to be able to pull the small camp. So it's so important that you make sure that you're deboarding those camps if they are blocked, and trying to see if they're blocked and then pulling whenever you possibly can. So we just see him doing that. Then we see him go for another point in Earth Spike, and that's just because this lane is so good when you have those 3 stuns that like they almost kill the PL there, and he's forced to salve up, and so that's why he's going for this build. I think otherwise he probably would skill mana drain in another scenario. Plus, the PL can use his doppelganger ability to break the mana drain, so if he ever used that on the PL could just get out of it instantly, so it kind of would be a waste. But we just see how this stun combination, especially with another stunning offlaner or hero that you're laning with, can be very dangerous. So he can be very good in lane in some circumstances, but he is just very squishy, and we saw that they maybe could have gotten a kill on the PL, but the problem was that he was just so squishy, the tree was basically zoning him out just because the tree could kill him in like a few right clicks. So we see, unfortunately for them, the enemy gets a pull off, but he is contesting it. So this is another thing. If a pull does get off by the enemy, you do want to, especially as the 4 position, to go contest that. Now sometimes your offlaner will come contest it and those kinds of things, and the same thing for the safe lane. You guys want to go to that pull. If they are doing that, try to drag them away, do something. It's mainly the support's job to stop the enemy from pulling, and if they do get the pull off, you want to try to contest it so you're getting that experience from the creeps there. Now I did want to rewind, I think, to one time when he went top here. Yeah, right here. So basically, what I wanted to show you, or what I wanted to tell you, is that he uses mana drain to try to find the real PL and drain the mana from PL. Basically because, I didn't mention this in the skills, but Hex and mana drain, they instantly kill illusions. So that's why actually he can be very, very good against illusion heroes. Actually, we'll back up here because I do want to mention what happens here very quick. So But these are very, very good against illusion heroes. So if once you get that shard, you can, mana drain 3 things, then it'll just insta-kill 2 of the illusions. So against any illusion heroes, or even people that buy Manta, this can be very, very good, especially with the shard. And the Hex also insta-kills an illusion. So he actually gets, at 25, now this is later in the game, this may be changed, who knows, but he gets 250 AoE Hex. So basically on, any kind of hero that has illusions, he can just Hex in an AoE and kill all of the illusions instantly. So he is, in some ways, an anti-illusion hero. Now, for PL, it's not as good because PL uses, can spawn a ton of illusions and put them in there, and then, they die, and then he just spawns more. So it's not as good against PL, but it is still pretty good. So I just wanted to mention that. Now, I will slow this down because this is important and something I wanted to mention just with chain stunning as a support, and this is extremely important. So we see that they sleep the enemy, they get this Lena stun, and here the bar is ticking down. And he tries to get into position, and he stuns right at the last second. But the problem is, the Earth Spike, because it's not instant like Hex, has a travel time. So he actually stunned kind of at the right time if it was Hex, but because of that travel time, the Ember is actually able to get his Sleight of Fist off and dodge the Earth Spike at the last second. So it's just one of those small mistakes that he probably was just trying to get in position, didn't realize, that he was going to get it, and he just missed it at the last second. It's just something to keep in mind. Earth Spike has a travel time. You probably want to use it a little bit earlier than maybe you would think, or right at the end there when it's the full chain stun. Just use it right before. Even if you don't get the full duration, that's fine, as long as you're securing it and you're getting that stun on, that's okay. You'd rather, miss, I don't know, an eighth of a second, then miss the stun altogether. And he was trying to get into position, so that's just something to keep in mind there. Now, lastly, what I want to say about the laning stage, or just in general, is that he bought Tranquil Boots, and he has this mana drain here, and you always buy Tranquil Boots because of this mana drain, and that's so you never have to go back to base. You should never, almost ever, be going back to base with Lion because he's able to sustain on the map with Tranquil Boots and then with his mana drain. So basically, the only way you should go back to base is if you're dying. That's pretty much the rule with Lion, so just keep that in mind. And other than that, for the next, after this laning stage part, he's pretty much going to do what he does here, go around stunning people. But then he just transitions into trying to get farm so he can get his Blink Dagger. And that's mainly what you're going to be doing. You're going to take a lane that nobody wants. You're maybe going to try to gank a hero that's diving. You're going to protect a tower by, trying to protect your carry or your mid by, stunning, those kinds of things. Maybe once you get 6, you're going to look to use that ultimate to get a kill. But other than that, you're mainly looking to farm whenever you can, get a lane so that you can farm up your Blink Dagger, because until you get your Blink Dagger, you're almost useless, other than if the enemy's diving or something like that. So we can fast forward and take a look at that. So here I just briefly want to show you how Lion can kind of feel useless after he uses all of his abilities and just needs to back off. So we see they get initiated on. He uses his finger. He uses his Earth Spike to stun. He uses his Hex to stun and his Mana Drain to Mana Drain. And then all of his abilities are on cooldown, and he kind of just has to back off. Now, I think they eventually, they do get that Timber kill, which is pretty good. But as you saw, he just kind of blew all of his abilities in the beginning, and then he just had to run away. And now he finally has his abilities back up again, but he actually doesn't have enough mana to really do anything to save his core there, to save his gyro. So he could probably blink in and stun, but it probably wouldn't have done enough to actually save his gyro, and he probably would have died. So it's just kind of a good example of, it's not really his fault. I think he used his abilities generally pretty well there. It's just the fact that that's kind of one weakness of Lion, is once you use everything and they get that kill on Timbersaw, he kind of just doesn't do anything until his stuns get back up. And then sometimes when that happens, when your stuns are back up, you might not have enough mana if you didn't mana drain somebody or anything like that, because you have high mana cost spells. If you look at his second level in Ultimate, it's 420 mana, so it is a lot of mana to cast everything. So that's another kind of weakness of the hero. So I just wanted to briefly show you that part, that fight, and how it can be kind of a weakness of Lion, despite the fact that you may use all of your abilities and play the fight pretty well. So next here, I want to show you basically how you want to play Lion in general, especially once you get your Blink Dagger. What you want to be doing is sitting off map, in the fog, in the trees, whatever, behind a core. And whether that is to set up to get a gank, or to set up to protect the core, we see what happens right here as he's sitting in the back, and they're able to use all of their abilities and kill the Timbersaw once again. And that's mainly because he was in position, he was in the correct position, sitting behind his gyro mid, sitting behind his core so that he could blink in, use his abilities, use his finger, and they could secure that pick off. And actually, if we saw earlier, the enemy currently has Aegis, as I believe, but he's just in the right position. His hero does so much damage that he's able to get that good pick off. And that's just kind of how you want to think about Lion. Sitting behind cores, whether that's to get a pick off in lane or for a team fight, being ready to defend a core and to kill the enemy hero. And that's just generally how you want to play Lion. And I think that's kind of everything that I want to show you, because that's basically how you play Lion. You just, you know, the laning stage was pretty good how he played it. I showed you how he can be kind of weak once he uses all of his abilities, and that's pretty much how you play every single team fight. Is you sit behind a core, you either initiate to begin the fight because you're getting a pick off, or you counter-initiate once you see a hero, or as soon as you see a hero, you blink in, hex, use all your abilities and those kinds of things. And that's generally how you're going to be playing this hero in general in almost every single game. So, yeah, that's pretty much Lion. And that's my Lion guide. As always, guys, I hope this was informative for you and helps you play better in the future. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them in the comments below. If you want me to take a look at one of your replays, then just let me know. Give me the replay number below, and I'd be happy to take a look at your game and give you some advice regardless of the hero or the position. So, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.